Val Alino, welcome to the Empowering Educators Conference. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for connecting with my heart, my work, and I'm just so excited to be here and serve your community in any possible way that I may.
I heard you at the Childhood Potential Conference put on by Lucy Tamasoba and was so deeply moved by the authenticity, by the fluidness of speaking from your heart. And I could hear it and feel it. And I was like, oh, this wisdom is to be shared. So I'm really grateful that you're taking your world tour, time from your world tour to be with us. And I welcome you to the Empowering Educators, Transforming Learning Environments through Uniting Body, Mind, and Spirit. And I salute you as a leader, not only in education, but especially also in integrating spirit, which is such a felt sense through your work. So I'm going to put it to speaker view and ask you to tell us about who you are and what you're up to.
Thank you so much for that welcoming. I truly appreciate it. Well, as we're doing this work of spirituality, sometimes it's hard to say all that we are, because at the end of the game, we know that we are nothing, right? We are none of the labels and none of the titles. But for the purpose of this conversation, to be able to inspire and work together with other educators so that your platform and your mission reaches every infinite corner of the world, in schools, in homes, with anywhere we can be able to be of service. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So literally, when I think about my childhood, the only game or activity that I could remember was playing to be a teacher. I taught every single tree, every single plant, every single doll, and I just had a really clear mission that that's where I needed to go. And so my background is Montessori education. I was graduated from the Association Montessori International in Perugia, Italy for my primary training. Later on in life, I also took my assistance to infancy in Atlanta, Georgia. I did run my own AMI school in Atlanta, where I'm currently recording this with you, which has been my home for 20 something years, 23, 24, but I've been on the go for the last 2.5 years. So besides a Montessori educator by heart, I am also a live conscious parenting spiritual coach, an NLP practitioner, and an international keynote speaker, bringing my heart, my wisdom, my love, my light to everywhere I can go. And I do travel a lot, and always combining my work with service. That for sure is what keeps me alive, my vitamin, and what gives me drive, what wakes me up. So a little bit of that. I've been in this path of, I guess my first meditation was when I was 19, and I've had different teachers, different practices. I'm also in all the lines of energy healing, Reiki, angels, conscious access consciousness, meditation, all those mindfulness and everything that you can possibly think. So it's a culmination, a combination of that spiritual side. So that's when I learned about your work, and you reached out. I'm like, this is exactly the work that I'm doing, the education and spirit, mind, body, and heart together. And actually the slogan of my company has always been trust your journey. So we had so many things in common, and I just was so excited to meet you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Wow. Well, thank you, because I see so clearly that you are embodying uniting body, mind, and spirit as a path in life, and very consciously bringing it into education and doing the work of transformation. So I would love for you to speak to us about transformation and why it's important to trust your journey. Tell us about your work in that sense.
Absolutely. And well, another aspect of my work is I actually have an arm of my company. It's called Speak, Connect, and Grow from the Heart. So from being one person that didn't have a voice because of my past trauma, to be able to have a voice, share my truth, and knowing that my truth changes, every 3 seconds. So we're infinite beings of evolution and expansion. When I teach these workshops to help people not only be better speakers, but really the work is inwards. When you are able to tap into the that is that blockage, who told you that you're not able to speak, and know and tell everyone that absolutely every soul in this world has a story. You don't have to have the story that something dramatic happened to you. Your story is perfect just the way it is. So when you connect to your why, to your story, to the reason, to that makes you wake up every day, that inspires your heart, even if you don't want to tell it to anyone right this minute because you're doubtful, and there's always this limited belief, like, is it gonna work? What if I say and they make fun of me? There's too many people doing this. So in these workshops that I serve, we break all these limited beliefs, because ultimately it's about using your heart as a compass of your life. When you actually are able to tap in and bring head down to the heart, and there's so many visuals and so many conferences and workshops that I've taken, and they say, there's got to be a balance and all of that. To be honest, yes, but in what has worked for me is literally just letting my heart lead. And so far, it's been an amazing journey. I've been able to, I cannot even put how many countries I've been able to be, I'm going to say, be served by the light of the people that have opened those doors. And we've been able to co-create incredible things for so many people. It's not when you think it's you, but it's not you. It's really the synergy that it's created by source, just like you right now. Why, out of all the millions of educators, you chose 21? I did not have the pleasure of meeting you. You tapped into my heart in one conference and you took action. So it's becoming aware, doing the inner work, knowing that your guide, your teacher's already there. You don't have to look for it. If you're hearing this and you're feeling this passion, and you go and you feel something that we could create together, and you take action, well, our growth will be infinite. But when you seek from desperation, when you need hundreds of validations, then you are going against trusting your journey. So it's a much lighter way of living, and it's a more beautiful path with incredible results. So it's all about that trust, that inner wisdom, and those signs, right, that are out there, that we, not only us, that we channel and do this inner work of that we do in spirituality. It's like everybody has access to it. Why don't we tap into it? More people is because we just need to slow down and remember to feel our heart every day. We forget the rhythm of our heart. We forget what laughter sounds like. We forget what it is to connect in such a way, looking at someone's eyes, that gives you goosebumps and electrifies your soul. Those are the moments that really shift consciousness. And I ask you and all our community, how many of those do we have on a daily basis? How many do we just do and connect with that presence, where the world can come to an end when you look at your cashier, the one who's doing all your passing your groceries, and just say, good morning, how are you? And you pause to just have that connectivity. So for me, this work has really taken another level because of these reasons: connectivity, taking time to let your energy frequencies are out all the time. It's like, like lasers. But how many do we tap to really come across and be a connection on a daily basis? That's a question.
And it's so relevant to acknowledge the power of the heart. We've had a recent conversation with Heart Math and talked about coherence and the different quality of our heart that is present when we are coherent. So I'm hearing in your conversation the power of bringing our heart coherence, of intentionality to the heart within whatever we're doing. And I wonder about, in the field of education, how we can integrate the heart into the path of education.
Well, you cannot have education without having the heart involved, period, the end. And so I'll tell you a little bit. I love telling the stories, right? And I believe that this is the connective factor to our audience. When I finally got my first teaching job, which was against all odds because I had recently finished high school. And I remember every recess, it was a school that was divided, boys, girls in the kindergarten. I remember climbing over a fence and of course breaking every law to spend my recess over at the kindergarten area. And I would just sit there and watch this teacher, Miss Johnson, I still remember her, and watch her teach. And I would tell her all my middle school, all my high school, that's what I would do. And I would be, one day I'm going to work in this school. And I finished high school. Of course, I was too young. I was too young to teach. But I went, they said, if you go to the university and get a teacher's degree to teach English as a second language, you've been so, pushy about this. I said, look, I don't care if you don't pay me. I'm gonna prove to myself and to you that I am going to serve this community. And when I was there teaching traditional method, I didn't know much about education. They gave me an opportunity. It didn't make sense to me because I was just following my heart and observing every child, how they were learning, what differences they were doing. It didn't make sense to me to have everybody, doing the workbook on page 5 and coloring the pig pink. I remember at the end of the year that 2 students had to repeat the school year. It was kindergarten. It was 4-year-olds. I'm like, how is that even possible? So in my heart, it didn't make sense to feel the rush, the rushing, the boxing, the education, not dedicating time to children and letting them go as goats from activity to activity. Montessori had not come into my life yet, but I knew in my heart this was not right. So I spent every single time that I could connecting to find out why the child is happy, why things were slowing down for them, how each one of them would learn. So integrating, then I went and learned about Montessori and the rest is history. But through education, it's only about observation, which of course is the core of Montessori's education, but also about just putting yourself in that child's place and connecting, once again, going back to the beginning of my conversation, letting that frequency flow, connect with that child's heart, and then just be congruent and act as you want life to act towards you. You don't like to be yelled, don't yell. You don't like to be taught by just lecturing, please don't do that. You don't like to be put on the spot, please, I kindly ask you never to do that. And put the child on the spot, consequences and or punishments, and control versus connection. These are common sense. I mean, in my opinion, they don't need to be taught. It's just is if you have that embedded in you, you will bring that about. So the connectivity to your heart in education is basically, again, going back to my basic principles, slowing down, looking at the child at eye level, and letting your heart lead the way. How? Slowing down. How? Caring, but not just caring for the child. We must learn and understand that the caring has to start within us. That's why in all my courses, conscious leadership in companies, I mean, I taught UPS, Columbia, and endless companies. You can look at my bio online. I go back to the heart. And they want to have strategies, they'll have strategies. But first, we got to break open and allow that moment to exist, to break all that was holding whoever, the teacher, the leader, the parent, the educator, back, to be able to believe that the basic foundation of education is love, period, the end.
And that's so relevant because we have homeschoolers, we have traditional schoolers, we have Montessorians in this environment. But what I think we're looking at is this desire to address the issues of the world, recognizing that there's tremendous bad news out there. And sometimes it's depleting, and sometimes it's overwhelming, the bad news. And so how do we become conscious change agents to make just at least our little corner a more positive difference? And that's why I really love your message of conscious leadership through education by following the heart. And I just wonder, knowing that you're speaking to a wide audience, how do you say, what are the first steps towards really making that shift?
Okay, so I'll give you another example, another little story. So in my travels, that you're well aware about that, and for those that don't know, I'm in the middle of a 5-continent tour for my 50th birthday, and it's serving through education, basically exactly that. So learning how education is in every country that I go, in every place that I visit. And some of these places I don't even speak the language. So I serve a school in Agra in India. And I remember the first time I went, I've gone there 3 times. How will I communicate with them if they didn't know English and I don't speak the language? And I was supposed to train teachers as well and do all that work. But it's beautiful to tell you and share with our audience that I believe without a doubt that has been, to this day, my deepest work. I didn't have a language. I didn't need the language. And we were able to shift consciousness. I don't even know how to describe. In fact, this school didn't even have toilets. Okay. They just had a hole in the ground. They didn't have desks. They obviously didn't have a blackboard. I mean, it was the poorest environment I have ever been. And look, I've traveled and I'm from Mexico, so I've seen poverty. And it's the happiest children with the happiest teachers with the least amount of things. Please explain that to me.
Yes.
So that is where the shift of consciousness happens. That is where the shift of consciousness. These are the lessons when we say, "Oh, I'm going to serve, I'm going to teach, I'm going to do workshops." Can you even believe what was my before and after? I was blessed. I was lifted. I learned from them, and together, because we were able to communicate through our heart. You become very creative and very resourceful. But to this day, I still. Well, the last time, it was right when the pandemic hit, that I had a teachers meeting with them. Well, it's two or three teachers do speak English, so I was helped with the teaching part, but the children do not. And you can see hours and hours of my interaction with them and how we were able to teach English, how we were able to show love, how we were able to, there's a lot of aggression and pulls and punishments still. And we were able to pass all that just through being present and using the language of love. So there are no barriers where if you are in an environment that you let source guide you there is no ending to the infinite possibilities that you can create in that time and place, because you know that you are not the star, you are not the one with wisdom and knowledge. You are there to have this synergy, to have your heart sound louder through the connectivity of the other community's heart. And that's where those miracles happen. That's when I see when things just are unimaginable. And the teachings and the love that I felt for these community, and in fact, I'm going back in December. So it's endless. It's connected for life. And so I ask our audience, how many more possibilities are we able to create, even in our own environment, if you have the possibility to travel and expand your work, I mean, it's amazing. But the big changes start in small environments. You start. One of my teachers, Dr. Shafali, taught me one of her biggest lessons. 1 is a million. For me, I will devote this passion in speaking to one person or speaking to 1,000 teachers that I will speak in Nigeria for the Christian widows and widowers organic nonprofit that I'm serving, and they're gathering 1,000 teachers. The same passion. There's no difference to me. So when you are activated in such a vibration of love, that passion and that knowledge and that light just transcends endlessly. and you still feel the connection, whether I'm going live and it's world to perceive a certain energy. And so when we know our why, and when we are in tune with being with the deepest gratitude that you can possibly fathom by just about everything, the possibility to have this technology, the possibility we are creating to share this knowledge with more people, and who knows, without expectation, just showing up is the first step to making the shift of consciousness.
Certainly, you're exemplifying that with me, because it was such an honor to get to connect with you, and you didn't know me, and here you are showing up with so much intention and presence as a way of sharing your service in the world. And I'm very interested in how you merge the message of effective and important education along with conscious parenting. How do those two realms merge for the people that are really listening from the parental point of view?
Beautiful question. Going back to also what I said at the beginning, when you are ready, the teacher will show up. And I was clear that punishments were not part of, something that I believe in, whether it's in teaching or with parents and running my own school and education through service and just my entire life. I was able to teach and train and observe, thousands of teachers. And even if they're Montessori, we're humans. And sometimes you're just not there to speak with passion and with peace and your highest self, and especially parents. So I can't even put a number of hours with my parents at my school to give them all that training. So I had a really big passion for working with parents as well, because we have these children most of the times at our schools, but then all having that confusion of these parents having their kids only a couple hours, and that restructure, and back to the punishments, and sometimes verbal abuse and whatnot, threats. And I really wanted that the parents, if they only have 3 or 4 hours a day to be with their children, that they make the best of it, that they start having these connections, right? I mean, it also relates to my upbringing. I had a lot of things going on in my life, and I was clear that one of my missions to be in education was that no child would live anything similar to what I had lived. So I had a personal investment in there. And I was going to speak at the Mother's Day event in the Westin Hotel in Mexico. It's a very big deal that they have. And I was a speaker about explaining Montessori in contrast of other methods of education. And the keynote speaker was Dr. Shafali. And I had never heard of her before, never in my life. So when I sat there and heard her, it just, everything that I had dreamed of education and consciousness, emerged. And I said to myself, okay, first, she's earned herself a follower. And second, if she ever trains something, a coaching, anything, I'm the first one enrolled. And I prayed and manifested so much this. And I remember, like if it was yesterday, I woke up one day and I was with somebody, and I said, oh my gosh, I woke up and I dreamed that Dr. Chivali did a coaching on conscious parenting. And he said, oh God, you and your dreams. And when I opened the Facebook, it was like first ever cohort of conscious parenting, Dr. Shafali. And it wasn't my time. I wasn't like in the best place to take it, but I felt all the goosebumps in my arms, and my heart was pounding. And long story short, I'm part of her first cohort. And so Dr. Shafali really is big on Montessori education. It just has the base of everything that we teach, the following the heart and honoring the child, and knowing and owning that the only work that we need to do is to work with the adult, period, the end. If we go back to the essence of how the child is born, with the traits that you and I were born with, that were taken away because of society, generational patterns, our parents, and the situations that we had lived. But the child comes, filled with love, gratitude, compassionate, giving, you name it. So why I'm such a big advocate to work with the adults, and in my coaching, I love it when they say, okay, so when are you going to see my child? And I'm like, oh, I don't work with the child, I work with the parent. No, but it's the child, like it's him, it's even the teenager, he did this, she did it. And I'm like, my love, let's do this work together, because our children are only a reflection of us. So at the beginning, to be honest, my love, is not the easiest work. Depending on where the adult is, they might take it personally. But I can tell you, until today, I have never had anybody walk away, and I have never had anybody not gain incredible results. So not only a connection with their child, but also a complete shift of consciousness in their daily life, a better relationship with their significant others, with more motivation in their work. Had people change careers and find a new trait and blessing that they did not know they had. They spark in a different area. So the work is beautiful. I'm very passionate about the coaching that I do as well.
I feel it and I love it. I'm just so grateful for your time. I want to honor it. I know you're flying on to your next place. Tell us about your journey and share your last pearls of wisdom before you have to go on to your next thing. But we would love to get to know what you're up to now.
So at this moment, I'm currently here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I started my 3-month tour in Mexico. Then I went on to Peru. Actually, Peru was the first tour ever that I brought people from that either took my Speak, Connect, and Grow from the tour workshop, or people that really wanted to discover another part of themselves. So we went to do this tour of speaking, service, spirituality, and sightseeing. Then I'm here right now in Atlanta, where I've been doing coaching and workshops. Tomorrow I leave to Istanbul as a springboard to Philippines, because I'm blessed to be a keynote for the Global Woman Empowerment Summit. And my title actually there, it all has to do with conscious parenting. I've been serving through Dubai, and this promoter travels around. In November is Bhutan. All they want to hear is conscious parenting, which, as we said, I cover all the aspect of self-love, spirituality, openness of consciousness, to be able to get to that conscious parenting part. So it's a beautiful, beautiful information. And it's 3 islands there. And then I go to Dubai to do also some coaching and work in preparation to my final place, which I'll go to Kenya for a nonprofit also that serves widows and widowers and orphans, with my friend Diana Kamanda, that has a beautiful nonprofit. And I'm celebrating my birthday in every stop, but the last spot is Nigeria, that I have a series of the most beautiful events organized by my friend Beatrice Yasufo with her nonprofit that I mentioned at the beginning. And we are going to be talking to educators, to community leaders, and I'm going to schools, visit schools. So I have a full agenda of work, service, all pro bono, because this is how I want to celebrate my life. This is how I want to say thank you to everyone that has opened their doors to receive me, to share these nuggets of love and wisdom that I've gained and continue to gain, because with education, you never stop learning. And I keep on reading and taking workshops and learning from beautiful opportunities to serve co-workers, co-leaders, and friends and family that just continue to expand and give me the energy and continue to put feathers on my wings to fly near people's hearts, to be able to continue to do this work that is only led by the power of the heart.
Very much coming from a philosophy of lifelong learning, starting with ourself, being authentically connected to service, connecting with our own hearts, and remembering the power of love. such pearls of wisdom that you're sharing. Are there any other pearls, and how I'm so happy to see your website behind you, Val Alino. Thank you for having that posted. And are there other ways of like, if people want more of what you're offering, how would you recommend that they go about it?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So in Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, I believe it's also the same, Val Alino Coach, Val Alino Coach. Unfortunately, my YouTube channel has been hacked, but I don't know who would do that, but we're in the process of hopefully claiming it back. But there's still, if you Google, there's information there. But this actually website, this website has a lot of information, and I'm one click away, one phone call away. If I could ever be of service to a community, to a school, I've been doing a lot of consulting jobs, even through higher ground education, international consulting for education, or companies. I bring this conscious leadership aspect and help sales and team building and self-care, and all the aspect. Also, a lot of companies are having a lot of trouble with their being present at work because they have all this aftermath of the pandemic with their children. So I'm actually bringing conscious parenting into companies itself, and I'm also doing retreats and stuff with the spiritual side. In fact, I'm starting a new little gig that I'm not ready to yell to the world, but I'm taking my first cohort of people to India the first week of December, and that's just cooking as we speak. So, looking to settle at the hills of the Himalayas and doing all that Ayurvedic spiritual work, where it all began. And I'm partnering with people from India that I've lived with, that I've gone 3 times to India with, and just endless possibilities of creation to continue, right? To expand consciousness, and never doubt what we're capable of creating, as long as it suits you, as long it's that everything that you're doing ignites a spark in you, despite of all the obstacles, points of view that one may have. People say, okay, well, you're 50 and now, like, when are you going to settle down? And how does your family see this and that? And I just laugh and I say, thank you for thinking of me. You don't worry. We're all good. We're all good. I'm in the midst of writing a book as well. So I pray that before the end of the year it's out. I can't reveal the title, but obviously it has to do with everything that we're talking. So I cannot wait to get it out. And the title will reveal. It keeps on shifting, and because I'm not attached to the book or the outcome, I'm writing in the present moment with all this beautiful opportunities that I'm gifted with to share, in hopes that it's a light to educators, parents, leaders, and anyone that wants to elevate their consciousness. But I really, really have so much gratitude, Jill, towards you, your work, your force that you have to put together in such a professional, clear way. It was, even though I had some issues of hacking and my computer's acting funny, I was able to tap into all your wisdom and learn from your organization skills. And I'm honored to share this with other educators from around the world. And why not let this be one of many forums that you may create, my love.
And it really does conclude in this moment for me with the emphasis of it is about empowering educators, because this time on our planet is so ripe for transformation, and education takes so much time of our lives in many, many families. And so let's do it ever more consciously. Let's bring conscious parenting into our lives, in what ways and paths open up, conscious leadership, conscious education. Let's transform our world together and feel empowered as a world community connected through our hearts.
Jill, and I'll add one more thing just because it just came down, please. And that is that if a child is triggering you, pause and bless the moment, because that child is only here to remind you, to remind us of what work we need to do. The child just comes to remind us to be connected to us and help us silently. So when you feel the eagerness to scold, to yell, to make your point go through, just breathe, take 3 breaths, and ask yourself, what is it about the situation that I'm not seeing that is for my highest good and the good of others? Ask endless possibilities, endless questions to be able to tap in. Because if you're triggered, and I'm going to expand it, not just through your children, but any adult, anyone that comes into your life, if you're triggered, we have work to do. And if you don't know how to do it, of course, I'm here to serve in any way I can, because once you liberate that, and there's nothing that moves your peace, there is nothing that you're attached to, there is nothing that you are controlling, that is the fullest bliss and happiness that I would love every human being on this world to feel, because there's a before and after once you're there. It takes work, dedication, and showing up for yourself. However, it is possible. And so those are my last little nuggets of wisdom to everyone. And I bless you. I thank you and our community. And I cannot wait to see all the beautiful possibilities that start from this beautiful workshop forum that you put together with so much love. And I want to commend you for your work and applaud you and bless you and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you, Val. What a pleasure. I'm really excited to continue to follow you and just aim for one of those retreats. So I hope to see
Let's
you.
do it. Let's do it. There's many. Oh, we're going back to Peru in October. So you can choose October, Peru, or India, December.
Wow. Okay, well, what a shining star, setting a great example for all of us to remember how we can live our lives, like with that kind of passion, that kind of love, and that kind of service. Bless you and your work. Thank you very much for being with us.
Gracias. Thank you so much.